Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. First of all, thank you so much for tuning into this show in 2020. I really appreciate your time, all of the energy that you're spending working on your project, trying to get it underway, deciding even if crowdfunding is right for you. So I appreciate you so much. And I just kind of wanted to say that in a specific podcast episode. I also want to talk about some of the opportunity that I see in 2021. So specifically when it comes to crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, e-commerce, equity crowdfunding, dialing into that and just in a bite-sized way, delivering that to you, what I think should be on your radar, the things that you should be aware of, and also where you can go to access lots of killer information for this particular year. Now, every year that comes around, I have people always who are like, they come in the beginning of the year and like, man, I have so many great ideas. I have so many things I want to execute on. And you circle back with them at the end of the year. And sometimes you find, unfortunately, they didn't do anything. They didn't take any kind of action. They didn't make any kind of progress. And it's so freaking disheartening. And I think it's really important that we're not like putting down people who don't take action, and we're not putting down people who, for whatever reason, can't execute or aren't making steps towards their goals. Because I'll be very frank with you, I've started lots of websites in my career, lots of different side projects, and even, larger projects that just haven't gone the way that I wanted them to. And a lot of the times it's something internal, like I'm just not really passionate about this idea, or I haven't fallen in love with the customers that this product is going to solve. Or you know what, I actually don't think that while I might have been interested in this one teaching area, I'm not interested in that anymore. And you'll have these coffee ideas, I call them. Coffee ideas are like where you're around a coffee table or you're talking with your friends at Starbucks or wherever you like to go. We have Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts where I grew up. You're talking with your friends and you just have a great idea and you're riffing and it's like so amazing. And then you forget it like a month from now, right? Or a couple of weeks from now. So we all have these different coffee fueled ideas or late night ideas where you're like, this is going to change the world, right? I think what the difference is, those ideas that stick are the ones that personally resonate with you in some way. So in my different podcast episodes, you can go and see the archives in this show. You can also check out on YouTube at youtube.com/crowdcrux. Crowdcrux is my blog, which I've been blogging since 2012 in the crowdfunding niche. Also got some great books out there. As you know, Kickstarter Launch Formula, great Audible book. I'm not going to get too much into that right now. This podcast episode is sponsored by the Gadgetflow. The Gadgetflow reaches over 28 million people, and they've been around since 2012. They are Indiegogo and Kickstarter experts. They featured over 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns, and if you have a technology or design campaign, it is a great platform to generate awareness and get backers. You can check them out at thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. Basically, the people who are able to take action, there's two things that distinguish them. Number one is that they've fallen in love with the product and they've fallen in love with who the product is going to help. By that, I mean, maybe they themselves had this issue where they were so frustrated, where they couldn't figure out something in their own life. Maybe they were using other types of backpacks and travel bags, and they always kept ripping and breaking. And then they're like, you know what? I'm going to finally make a robust travel bag that's going to be great for someone, whether you're on the go, whether you're going to the office, or you're going hiking and backpacking with your friends, right, with your buddies, that this backpack is going to be with you, is going to be robust. So maybe that's where the pain point comes from. Maybe you have a different pain point where you see this need in the marketplace and it frustrates you. It frustrates you that there aren't better products that are out there solving this particular problem. Right. So great product ideas and great businesses tend to have a bit of a personal nature to them. And there's a passion in there. There's a passion that's infused into that particular idea. Now, this goes contrary, completely perpendicular to MBA style thinking, right? If we think about the corporate world, we think about MBAs, the way that they like to think is, okay, let's look at the market statistics. Let's look at this. Let's analyze the supply chain. Let's get very intellectual, right, about this idea before we're even excited about it. And they really put it all on paper and they make great business plans and stuff. But lo and behold, they weren't actually excited in the first place, right? So what distinguishes, in my mind, a member of the CrowdCrux community, a listener of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, someone who is really there putting their guts on the line for this thing, is someone who has fallen in love with their product, with the problem it solves, and more specifically with the customers, the people whose lives you're going to change. One of my favorite questions on these different episodes that I do is, what is most rewarding to you about running a crowdfunding campaign? And lo and behold, almost every single person says, you know what? Like raising a bunch of money, 6 figures, 7 figures was awesome. But what I really liked was being able to see people interact with the product, to give me feedback, to post photos on Instagram, to make mini videos in my Facebook, right? And to tag me in that. That's really what's rewarding, is when you are able to make an impact on someone else with your product, with your vision, and what you want to bring to the world. And what's more, you become a part of that person's little world, that person's little story. I remember great products that I've used throughout my life, and even exercise ones and stuff like that. And I remember them, they become a part of my memories. You think back to like even when you're little, playing with Play-Doh, right? Well, Play-Doh, someone invented that. Someone came up with that idea. They executed on it. They got it out there. And now it becomes a part of your memories and your life story. And that's, I think, one of the most beautiful and incredible things about the world today, is that you can actually create something that impacts someone else on the other side of the planet. Right? It doesn't even necessarily take very much money. In fact, you can raise money for it. You can do a Kickstarter, Indiegogo campaign. You can get the funding you need for the tooling costs, the funding you need for the pre-order, for the initial order quantity, right? And you can get this out there like rapid fire in a way that's never been existing before. And you can even do testing campaigns with Facebook ads to even determine if this is a product that you should spend your time creating. So I think that the beginning of 2021 is, obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of one of the worst, I think, experiences for many people that's probably tested your resolve, that's really tested your ability to push forward. And maybe if you have an existing job or a career, you now realize how much you hate that job or career, rather than looking at this as a potential setback or looking at this as something that's going to be very difficult to go through. I rather view it as an opportunity. There's a saying that life is happening for you. It is not happening to you. Take a second to think about that. Life is happening for you. It is not happening to you. When life is happening to you, it feels like you're never in control. It feels like your boss is maybe putting you down, or your boss is giving you work that you're not really interested in. And it's like you're at the brunt of all of these different forces. Maybe you don't like your lifestyle. Maybe you don't like the goals, and kind of there's nothing on the horizon for you. So you're not really very excited about your existence. You're like, man, I'm just feeling a funk, right? But the second that you begin to have a bit of a larger plan, and you begin to have a little bit of fire in the belly, all of a sudden your entire view switches. And it's like, you know what? Maybe these things, rather than happening to me, right? Maybe this is happening for me. Maybe this is an indication that I shouldn't be at this job. Maybe this is an indication that this is actually the perfect time to buckle down, to work on a new product idea, and to get it out there for the world to see. Maybe this is my little moment in my own life where it's going to be scary, it's going to be hard, but this is really the sign from, you want to call it the universe, you want to call it whatever. Maybe this is a sign that it's really important for me to focus in this period and to get something out there. And you know what? I think it even goes beyond just yourself. I've had different projects I've worked on before where the inspiration for that project was the entrepreneur, was their late wife, was their family, was their kids, and wanting to show their children that it's possible to build a business with really good values and could get a product out there that's going to help tons of people worldwide. Maybe this is actually beyond you. It's not just about making a lot of money or setting up a foundation, a strong foundation financially for your future, or even building freedom for yourself and being your own boss. Maybe it actually goes beyond that. Maybe it's about the people in your life who you want to positively affect, the example that you want to set in the eyes of your children, in your community, in your spouse, a tribute to people who have impacted you in your life before. Maybe it's a little bit larger than you. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. Fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. I think that when you come to that kind of an understanding, it begins to shift and you start to think all these things that are happening right now, rather than being setbacks or obstacles or something, a tree has fallen in the way when I'm trying to maybe go down this path with my car and a tree falls in front of me. Maybe it's a signal that you shouldn't be going down that particular path, right? Maybe there's an alternative one. So the most important thing I think is, as an entrepreneur, to believe all the time that life is happening for you. And I think that this is also true in 2021. So what are some of the new things that we're seeing in 2021? Well, number one, we're seeing that it's easier than ever before to market and advertise your products online. Just look at the way that Facebook is booming. Now, obviously, there are tons of different things going on with Facebook and iOS and everything, but still, it is ridiculously easy and low cost to get your product, whether it's a tabletop game, a book that you've written, a movie that you're producing, a new gadget, a gizmo, a design product, doesn't matter. It's easier than ever before to get yourself into the eyes of potential customers. Number two, it's also super easy to determine whether or not you have validation for this product idea. Old school entrepreneurs, you know what they would have to do? They'd have to invest $60K in tooling costs, in setting up a business, in minimum order quantities that are massive, get all of this inventory into their garage, and then hope that it sells. That is such a huge sunk cost, my friends, and you don't even know if the inventory is going to sell. But nowadays, you don't got to do that. You can plan a very well executed Kickstarter campaign. You can even do testing before that, and you can get a rock solid sense of whether this thing is worth your time and whether or not it's going to sell. You can save yourself so much time, legwork, headache, and financial loss going about it in this fashion. It is ridiculous to me. It's the easiest time to be able to get a product out there. Number two, we're seeing the rise of other types of fundraising. So in addition to Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which are great, and obviously the foundation for my channel, my podcast, my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, available on Audible, and these other assets that I built up over time, there's also other ways of raising money like Patreon, right? Subscription-based crowdfunding, where a lot of YouTubers are doing Patreon in order to get recurring revenue for their business if they're offering something like, making comics, or they're doing a podcast, or they're a blogger, right? Or a YouTuber, maybe making videos about news. Patreon is another big thing that's going to continue to grow. And there are a lot of also other services I'm not going to mention on this podcast. We have a family-friendly podcast, but that also provide, subscription revenue. We've seen the growth of in the last year or so. Another thing would be equity crowdfunding. This is another alternative finance instrument that we see exploding right now as of 2020. It was incredible to me, just the level of growth we experienced this past year with equity crowdfunding. And what's more, the SEC has now approved new regulations and rules, so you can actually raise upwards of $5 million under regulation crowdfunding. So this is going to replace, in my opinion, a lot of traditional bread and butter angel investing. It just makes complete sense to me that if you're going to want to get investment for your company, why not make it public? Also, why not use a crowd to actually do a launch? And it's more of a marketing vehicle, right? So we're seeing tons of stuff there with WeFunder, Start Engine, Republic.co. I'm working on projects there with people when it comes to marketing. I can't, announce those, but a lot of cool stuff is going on there. So that's another major trend that we're going to see continue into 2021. What are some of the other trends? Well, I think that the great thing about YouTube, and one of the things that I've realized, is that so much of my research and the things that I like to unearth, I can now bring to an even larger audience through my YouTube channel. So I think we're at around 25,000 subscribers right now. And I'm going to be putting out more and more content, not just on crowdfunding, but also on making products. How do you actually go about doing rapid prototyping? How do you design things? Really the A to Z, as well as e-commerce, right? So to me, this is something where if you were just, let's just say 20 years ago, right? If you were an entrepreneur and you want to get an idea off the ground, what would you have to do? You'd have to probably go to the library and maybe hope that you can find some information, maybe talk to the top business guy in your town and hope that he is willing to impart a little bit of information in terms of how to make products. You might have to fly all the way to China or a manufacturing center in order to get the product made. There was no such thing as, collaboration in teams and virtual working. Nowadays, we're seeing more and more education disseminated online via podcasts, via YouTube, via books that are easy to download, slim volumes, to take action right away, as well as mentors who are in this space, other people aside from myself who can help you out. So we're seeing this coalescing of talent that will enable you to execute faster and to access the exact information you need. If you have a problem right now, let's just say you have a problem with you don't understand shipping and fulfillment, you don't understand logistics and supply chain, you don't know how to drive traffic and get people to actually buy your product. The chances are, I'd say like 99%, that there is a solution to this problem which you are currently experiencing. And you might not know the solution, but chances are I know someone who can help you. I myself can help you specifically, or there are other resources and other mentors and other authors who might be able to help with that particular problem that you are experiencing. So instead of seeing like, oh man, I have so much stuff to do, I got to figure out this, I got to figure out that, you don't have to do everything alone. The hallmark of great, successful business owners and leaders is not that they're an individual contributor, it's that they're able to assemble a team around themselves, find out where that information is that they need to be able to get to the next level and to execute in a much higher fashion. Is that information in the heads of other people that they have to talk to? Is that information readily available by reading books? Is that information available online and other people are teaching that in the form of podcasts or YouTube videos, right? So this is to me just incredible fertile ground for innovation. It's incredibly exciting for me to be able to live in this time and also to be able to be at the center of bringing you a lot of these teachings and messages. And you know that I hold this to a really high standard. I really want to have actionable content coming out this year on the podcast. So first of all, thank you so much for listening to this. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button in the podcast app on iTunes. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can do it there. You can go to YouTube, youtube.com/crowdcrux. You can subscribe there. Also on Instagram now, so you can search my name, Salvador Briggman. It will bring up my Instagram. You can watch my bite-sized YouTube videos and IGTV videos there. A lot of great stuff. Next, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, probably the first place to get started would be my book, which is available on Audible, The Kickstarter Launch Formula. Super easy read. I bring my level of confidence and enthusiasm and passion to reading that book for you. I hope you like it. You can check it out at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link will take you to the Audible version. And finally, if you're ready to really rock and roll and get the foundation laid out for you, right? In terms of for your specific product, your specific category, there's so many, obviously tabletop games, you have creative, film, dance, books, musicians that are contacting me, a lot of different types of interesting products, physical products, design products, software campaigns, right? There's so many different ones. So it's really hard. I try to bring on a lot of different guests to kind of hit many of these different angles. But if you feel like you still don't have a full, clear picture of what success looks like for you and how to actually achieve that, what you got to go through in order to get there, you can always book a one-on-one coaching call with me. That's crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching, and bring your questions, bring your notes, any kind of uncertainty that you have there. And also, we might be able to talk about if I can get involved directly in some way. I'm not able to work on a lot of projects, honestly, just because some of them aren't a good fit. I need to be passionate just as you are about these products. So I would say this is an hour-long intensive one-off coaching call that will be great for you if you've sampled a little bit of my other content and you're like, okay, this guy, he's a good mesh with me in terms of his personality. He has a good sense of where the industry is going. And if that sounds interesting to you, you can book a one-on-one coaching call with me. That being said, I wanted to keep this under 20 minutes because I know I could talk a long time. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Sal, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. If you have not yet, go and check me out on YouTube. I got a YouTube channel. I think we're at like around 20,000 subscribers now. So you can go and check me out there under my name, Salvador Briggman. And also I got a blog, crowdcrux.com, got a book, Kickstarter Launch Formula. So a lot of good stuff for you. Now, when it comes to your project, it depends on what stage you're in, but if you at least have a prototype and you're like ready to get started, really thinking a little bit more seriously about Kickstarter, one of the things that I'll do with listeners is we can do a one-on-one intensive coaching call. Now, this is kind of like a way for not only for you to set the foundation for your campaign, but also if you want to work with me in a larger sense, or you want my thoughts on any kind of agencies or other people in the industry, this is a really good place to get started. And it's also something where I think if you've been learning a lot from the podcast or my other YouTube channels, like that literally just scrapes the surface of what goes well with a crowdfunding campaign. There's so many other things, techniques, tools, things that I don't mention on these episodes that I think could be really powerful for a lot of different campaigns out there. But I usually typically talk about that more with coaching students or for their specific campaigns, or I can recommend that depending on the type of product that you have and what you're trying to accomplish, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes of a Kickstarter, and I try to document that on the podcast and my YouTube channel. But there's also so much stuff that goes beyond just a simple podcast episode that really goes into more of the mechanics, right, of launching one of these things and making it successful. So naturally, you're only getting to scrape the surface with some of my content. And that's just kind of how content works. Like, I don't know your specific case. I don't know how much money you're trying to raise. I don't know the type of product you have. So I can only create content that's more for a broader audience of people, obviously, and ask questions of entrepreneurs that are going to be helpful for those types of people. If you want to talk about your specific case, it is a great opportunity to book a one-on-one coaching call with me. If that sounds interesting to you, go to crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Go to that link, tell me a little bit about you, and we can book your one-on-one intensive hour-long coaching call ASAP. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Hope you got a lot of value out of it. Have a good weekend, man, and I will see you next time.